All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. Just can't say enough how proud I am of the Nebraska public servants. We're here at NEMA headquarters. We're here at the NEMA headquarters to address extraordinary moments that have taken place in the state of Nebraska since beginning last Monday. First, want to say thanks for Lieutenant Governor Joe Kelly's efforts, Director Kramer, Colonel Bolduc with State Patrol, General Strong, Director Vinton, Irv, and John, Irv who heads up NEMA, and then John Cannon with the Nebraska County Association. So, and then everybody here at the NEMA headquarters rolling their sleeves up and being the Nebraskans, right? Answering the call whenever there's a challenge. I think a couple things that...
They got a
Say it again.
They got a reverberation.
Okay. I'm echoing a little bit. Hearing me once is enough, not twice in the same sense would be too much. Tell me when I can go. All right, there we go. We're perfect. Awesome. I think a couple things that I think is really important, so that I've had the incredible privilege of being the 41st governor now, just a year and 2 weeks, something like that. And if we just think back of what's all gone on, last year at this time there were extraordinary winter events taking place out from the Sandhills into the Panhandle, and all the work that Nebraskans have done in the snowplows and mobilization. I think one of the first things I remember is where mobilization of a lot of snowplows and blowers out into Cherry County and out into the western Panhandle. Is, you know, there are areas that had over 100 inches of snow and some of the toughest winters ever. And really, that's where we find ourselves today for the eastern part of the state, and in particular the northeastern, but pretty much north to south, where we're having extraordinary moments. And I think there's a couple things that I think are incredibly important today. First off, for all Nebraskans, if I had the privilege to welcome troops home this morning in Omaha, and you might say it doesn't seem that bad, it's really important that all Nebraskans stay home, because the wind chill is crippling, the snow blowing is crippling, and I think right now that what I got briefed and our team will be talking about, you know, we have almost 15% of our roads closed across the state, which is a pretty significant event since the floods of 19. And the other that's really important, Nebraska, the most welcoming state in the country, have the most incredible people. And if you just think about how many new Nebraskans we have in the last 10 and 15 years that have never lived through this kind of event, the blizzard, the blowing snow, the bitter cold, it really, really creates incredibly crippling, but most importantly, incredibly dangerous places for people. So we just can't urge Nebraskans to stay home, and to stay home for several days, because this event is not going away tonight. It's not going away tomorrow. It's going to take a number of days. And the other thing that's important is our teams have been working tirelessly. This started Monday, today's Saturday, and right now today there's 350 plows out in the eastern part of Nebraska, plowing and moving snow, and you know, that's keeping the main thoroughfares. And I think there's been Colonel Bolduc said over 1,000 car calls this week. We just can't urge people to stay off because it's dangerous for you and so difficult to keep roads moving. So I think that's really important. And you know, I think a lot of parts of the northeast Nebraska has received since Monday right up to 2 foot of snow, with winds blowing and extraordinary crippling. So can't urge us all again enough to stay back. The other thing I want to make sure that we talk about is how important it is that we recognize the vastness of how this affects us more than travel, and more than making sure that we keep everybody safe. It's so important that we stay home, and that we're able to recognize the needs that as once we get our highways through, that I want to make sure that all Nebraskans in agriculture, all Nebraska livestock producers, recognize that we have a really, really good pulse beat on how critical it is and how much help is needed. I couldn't tell you how incredibly proud I am of Nebraska livestock producers that have an impact on feeding the world and saving the planet, and incredible impact on food security. And virtually all Nebraska livestock producers just used to doing it their own and never asking for help. I think it's really important that we will talk about that today, that we make sure that you get a little humble and be willing to ask for help, because it's going to take days to be able to get to all the roads that are that have been affected, whether it's county roads or even township roads. John will talk about our county partners and local partners and neighbors helping neighbors. And that's the greatest part of these events. It's the way it is in Nebraska. We just roll up our sleeves and help each other. But I think things that I remember 1983 really, really well. There's nothing close in my experience to what's taken place since Monday in eastern Nebraska since 1983. The other thing that's really important is for all the cattle producers. If you think of northeast Nebraska, what took place in August. Cattle feedlot producers went through an extraordinary crippling couple days with incredible heat, incredible humidity, no wind, and had catastrophic loss, death losses of their livestock. Well, they're going through the same thing today with these crippling, and how incredibly important it is that we can get roads open so that the distiller grains can get, so that they can keep cattle on feed and minimize the losses. And that's just the tip of the iceberg from when we start talking about dairy and dumping milk, and we talk about poultry, and we talk about pork. So we need all hands on deck. Can't ask all neighbors to just keep reaching out and making sure that we're all part of it. And I think that what I want to make sure all Nebraskans from Omaha and Lincoln and every producer knows that all the public servants in the state of Nebraska have all hands on deck. We're putting everything out there to be able to get the resources together, and we're declaring a state of emergency. So the bottom line is really, really simple. Nebraskans help each other. It's really, really important that we recognize it's going to take days. This isn't going to go away in the next 24 hours or the next 48 hours. It could take up to 4 and 5 days before we can even get close to normal operations. It's going to take patience, but it's going to take us all reaching out and asking for help and helping each other across the board. And great part is there's no better place to live, because together we can get through this, and we'll be helping each other. And I think that the other thing that's really important is that we not be bashful to reach out and ask for help. We're not very good at that. Nebraskans are humble. We don't brag about anything, and we're just going to do it ourselves. So I can encourage us all to not be bashful, to reach out and ask for help. So I think next I would like to invite Irv Portis up. Irv is the Assistant Director of NEMA, and he'll touch on the specifics of our emergency action.
Thank you, Governor. As you said, I'm Irv Portis, and I'm the Assistant Director of Nebraska Emergency Management Agency. We began conversations last night with Director Kramer, Nebraska Department of Transportation, Colonel Bulldog, Superintendent of Nebraska State Patrol, the Governor's office and Governor's staff, and then with National Guard and the Adjutant General, who is the Director of the Nebraska Emergency Management Agency. So the Governor has authorized an emergency declaration. We're working on the text of the proclamation at this point, but the intent of this proclamation is that Nebraska's experienced exceptionally hazardous winter conditions, including heavy snow, high winds, sub-zero temperatures with the remnants of the winter storm for the last 3 days, causing significant accessibility and management difficulties for ag producers of livestock and dairy livestock production due to impassable local roadways, necessitating the emergency response, which is a whole of government response to address, minimize impacts, and restore us to a state of normalcy as soon as possible. So with the emergency proclamation, we've activated the State Emergency Operations Center, began our first briefing at 1 o'clock today to begin identifying what the impacts are and then working towards resolution of those impacts as quickly as timely possible, with the most significant impacts being on Department of Transportation and State Patrol, and then the livestock producers who need access to their facilities across the affected areas of the state. So I will turn this over to John Cannon, Nebraska Association of County Officials.
Thank you, Irv. My name is John Cannon. I'm the Executive Director of the Nebraska Association of County Officials. 93 counties across Nebraska that we represent, and counties are often perceived as the first line of defense for a lot of essential services. In particular, the last several days, that's our emergency managers, our sheriffs, and our highway superintendents that have really been taking the brunt of it, and occasionally those services get overwhelmed at the local level. And so from our part, we certainly appreciate the partnership with the state. This isn't the first time I've met any of these folks here, so we've laid the groundwork over the last several years, and we certainly appreciate that. As you all know, it's a little brisk outside. It's really cold in northeast Nebraska, and we're getting reports of vehicles and equipment that are breaking down. At least one county, I asked them for an assessment, and they said they couldn't give us an assessment because everything was frozen in place and they couldn't get out to go see what was going on. So as far as the needs that we see, a lot of it is stuff that the state has already taken care of. They're working on right now. A lot of the need is really just opening state highways, in particular highways 91 and 79 in Dodge County, 81, 121, and 32 in Madison County, and 275 in parts of Stanton County. We need help with plows, getting roads open. We need to be able to get farmers, as the governor had mentioned, farmers to their livestock for feed and water. And but one of the things that kind of overwhelmingly that I've heard from a lot of emergency managers across the state is the whole thing about messaging that the governor brought up, and that is we need to encourage people to stay in their homes, not go anywhere that they don't need to be going to if it's not essential. People that are traveling on the roads need to know what the danger is, because anything that's going to overwhelm those points that we have in the system are really going to be detrimental to all of us. Again, I want to thank the governor for inviting us to talk about what the county's needs are. I'll ask all of you to please layer and be warm. And I'd like to introduce Vicki Kramer, the Director of the Department of Transportation. Thank you.
As the governor and John and Irv said, the situation we're in today is dire. We've got 1,700 miles of the state's 10,000 miles of highway currently closed and impassable. So when we look at the overall scope of things, this is something that's going to take days to dig out of, literally. And so the counties are in a position where they need help. The DOT has reallocated resources over the last few days to be able to provide the support we need for the state highway system, as well as hopefully to our counties as we look at what the needs are. That means that our crews, as the governor said, this isn't our first storm. Our crews have been going strong since Christmas, really. They missed Christmas with their families, and they started work on Sunday night prepping for the storms that have been with us for this last week, and they're going to be working well into this coming week. So please stay home and think of all of those that are working 16, 18-hour days to keep those roads clean when you decide whether or not you want to go out and get fast food. Is it really necessary? At the end of the day, we need all of our plows directed at making sure these highways can stay open, so we're not towing vehicles and moving things around, because every vehicle that gets left on a highway, it becomes another obstacle that our crews have to move around. So please continue to think hard about whether or not you need to be on the road, and also encourage your neighbors to do the same, and just stay safe, because your neighbor could be one of those guys out behind a plow, and we need everybody to be safe. So in terms of scope of the situation, we've got about 108 closures currently going on. That's over 1,700 miles of highway, as I said. We've got around 370 plows active in just eastern Nebraska. So as the governor said, if you look about Highway 81, north-south, everything east of that is impacted. So it's going to take several days as we dig out of it. Please understand, we need everyone to stay home. It's going to be multi-days before we get to some of those county roads and some of those highways that we need to be able to get everybody home safe. So thank you. I want to again thank the NDOT crews and our local county partners. Without our snow fighters, we wouldn't be able to get through this. So thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to Colonel Bolduc to talk about some of the public safety measures we're taking.
Thank you, Director Kramer, and for all the outstanding work DOT is doing right now to help in this situation. Our troopers have been extremely busy this week, as you might imagine, especially in the last 2 days. As of noon today, we've assisted over 400 stranded motorists since this storm began on Thursday, and most of those drivers have slidden off the road or became stranded in the middle of the traffic lanes because of snow or because of vehicle malfunctions. For this entire week, we're well over 900 motorist assists, probably by 1,000 by now. While this week included 2 major winter storms, this latest storm has included both challenges and risks that are much different than the storm earlier this week. The extreme cold and bitter wind chills can be life-threatening, even with limited exposure. This latest snowfall was also light, and it is conducive to blowing around. The heavy winds aren't going to subside, what we're hearing, until very late tonight. Our troopers have encountered hundreds of motorists who thought that it was safe to travel, only to become stranded and start causing what we refer to as the domino effect. You're going down an east-west highway, it looks great, you become stranded, other vehicles become stranded behind you, now we can't get emergency vehicles to you, we can't get plows to plow around those vehicles. As of right now, we're trying to effect a rescue of 2 people stranded in a vehicle in Saunders County who've been there since last night. They've run out of fuel, they've run out of food and water, and our closest trooper, the closest we can get to them is 6 miles. Until we can get other resources to them, they're going to be in dire straits. I'm confident that we'll get the equipment needed to get those folks out. That is being repeated over and over and over throughout eastern Nebraska. The best way to prevent that from happening is to not go outside and drive. It's as simple as that. If we have to divert resources to you when you become stuck, that's one fewer resource that may be needed in an emergency that was not predictable and was not preventable, whether that be a snowplow, a fire truck, an ambulance, a trooper. If resources are being devoted to something that's preventable, we can't help somebody else. It's simple as that. As the governor said, help your neighbors, help your fellow Nebraskans. Don't become part of the problem. It's going to take us multiple days to get out of this situation, so we really need everybody's help, and the best way to help is to stay home. One other thing, just remember, if you do become stranded, if you do have an emergency, use 911 or *55 on your mobile, and we will do our very best to get resources to you to help with your emergency. Again, let's try to prevent the emergencies from happening in the first place by simply staying home. And I'm going to turn it over now to General Strong. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colonel Bolduc. Good afternoon. I'm Major General Craig Strong, the Adjutant General for the state of Nebraska, and I just want to start by saying I want to recognize and provide credit to those that are on the front lines today. Our crews from the Nebraska Department of Transportation and our teammates in the State Patrol who are clearly on the front lines. But I want to assure the rest of Nebraska that the Nebraska National Guard stands ready to support as needed. The main efforts in events like this are clearly life-saving measures as needed, and as well as any other requirements that have been identified by the Department of Transportation and the State Patrol and any other agency coming through our Emergency Operations Center. So from a National Guard perspective, we have activated our command and control node to monitor the situation moving forward. I have provided an operations order to our subordinate commanders to activate our emergency management plan, and we are in a be prepared status at this point, standing by, standing ready to provide assistance as identified in any capability gap when called upon. So with that, I will now turn it over to Director Vinton with the Department of Ag.
Thank you. And first of all, I would like to thank those on the front line, Colonel Bolduc and the State Patrol, and Vicki Kramer and the Department of Transportation crews. Thank you very much for what you're doing. I'd like to add a little color from the agricultural perspective, why we're asking for your help and partnership, and why this is becoming critical for agriculture, for producers large and for producers small. This is widespread. You can see pretty much east of Highway 281, north to south. There is a critical situation. Our producers, our farmers, our ranchers, our livestock producers are typically very well prepared and independent. But because of the duration of this event, it's been a week, because of the high winds, the amount of snow, and the extreme cold, we're starting to get into critical situations. So the more we can focus on getting those roads open to certain producers that need help, it's an important situation for us. For example, we have producers that we need to get feed into. We have situations where we need to get milk out. As you know, dairy cows, we can't just flip a switch and turn those dairies off. And we also have hog producers and poultry producers that have critical situations and need to move animals and get feed and get workers in too for relief work. So anything you can do to help us out, please stay home and know that we're doing our very best and that Nebraska's farmers, ranchers, and livestock producers are doing their best, and thank you to them. Prior to moving to Lincoln last year to take the job as Director of Agriculture, I was a rancher myself, and my family still is out in western Nebraska. And I very well remember the winter of 1983 because that was my first winter on the ranch. And I would agree with the governor. I haven't seen anything like this since then. So I urge you, stay home, and thank you.
Thank you, Director Vinton. And maybe the last thing before we do questions is just can't say thanks enough to everybody here and all of your teams. Extraordinary privilege to be in the NEMA headquarters and then see year one from extraordinary challenges last winter to fires to today, just how everybody steps up and gets the job done. And no matter what the set of circumstances are. And so it's, can't say thanks enough. And then on top of what's taken place in all of our communities with fire departments, with emergency medical personnel, servants that are there answering the call as well. So Nebraskans helping Nebraskans, the staple of our state, and we are going to have a number of days ahead to really take it to a top level. So can't thank everybody enough. We have a lot of work ahead, and obviously can't keep saying it enough, urging Nebraskans to stay home for a number of days. You know, you might be in the center of a community where in a town and sheltered from the wind and say, you know, it's not so bad. Trust me, when you just get outside in the open, it's extraordinary and it's bone-chilling cold and it's very, very dangerous. And I think yesterday I heard that it's been 50 years. 1974 was the coldest of a 33-degree below zero day. With the wind chill, it's way worse than that. So we have very dangerous conditions, and can't thank everybody enough. So I think we'll open it up for questions. Appreciate all the press being here and helping us get the word out, because your presence and your communication will help save lives and help us get our make sure our economy doesn't take a step back, that we can get our businesses moving and getting our number one industry back on its feet as quick as possible. Questions? Martha?
Could we hear a little bit more, could we find out a little bit more about the situation in Saunders County with the folks who are stranded?
Yeah, Colonel Bolduc, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Right now, it's basically what I previously reported, unless Sergeant Jones, you have anything emergent. Basically, we're trying to move Department of Transportation blower units there, giant snow blowers, because even plows can't get through the giant drifts. We are in communication with those folks. Our dispatchers have been on the phone with them. making sure that we're monitoring their health. They're fine. Unfortunately, they're running out of gas, so staying warm obviously is going to be a big problem. But again, we're confident that we're going to get the right resources to those folks in the next hour or so. But again, that's the same situation is being repeated in many locations where folks are stuck, but they're fine. They're going to stay stuck until we can get the roads cleared. Again, it just reiterates the point. Travel is not advised in eastern Nebraska right now. Thank you.
How prepared were they? I mean, what did they have with them? Did they have food with them? Did they have food with them?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, that's great. Winter travel, you have to be prepared. These folks were somewhat prepared. They had enough fuel to last over a dozen hours being stuck, so that's good. They did have some food and water, but there's a limit to that. They're, again, right now in good health, but that could change if they're unable to stay warm in these very frigid temperatures. So, again, the best way to handle this is just stay home. If you must travel throughout the winter, you have to be prepared, have warm clothing, food, water, enough fuel, a charged cell phone or a cell phone charger, so that in the event you become stranded, you can reach out for help. I'm confident this will have a positive outcome, but it's going to take a lot of effort and it's going to take resources.
Two people?
There are 2 people, an adult and a juvenile, is our understanding. And again, they're in good health at this moment, and we are doing everything we can to make sure that that outcome stays the same.
Other questions? Andrew?
Governor, what have you heard about the power grid, the power situation? Have you had any
Yeah.
outages?
So we've been in communication with the public power districts, and so the power right now is all very adequate. We did an executive order yesterday or the day before, I lose track of time, making sure that we could have over-the-road tankers be moving longer hours so that we could make sure that there's plenty of fuel. So just as of a couple hours ago, everything's real good. The other is water flow in our river. And, we've had meetings with the Corps. The Corps of Engineers done a great job of increasing flow of water to make sure we have enough water in regard to ice jams. So every potential concern is being addressed on a proactive basis. Couldn't give enough shout out to the Corps of Engineers of their openness and working hand in hand. So I think in terms of the power right now, everything's real good. There could be a possibility that there'll have to be some 45-minute to hour outages if this continues in this bone-chilling cold during the night. So I think that the plan is real good, where we'll be in good shape. Martha?
Declaring the emergency, what does that allow you to do that you would not be able to do otherwise, or what are you hoping that will with?
Yeah, I'll let, number one, it's resources, and I'll let Irv talk to the specifics about it. Really important, and we state number one, Martha, when you declare a state of emergency, that it's really serious. This is a crippling storm and event, and that tells all Nebraskans, number one, stay home, and that all business people know that we're doing everything we can, and I'll let Irv talk into the specifics of it. Thank you.
Martha, with the declaration, what we will do, or what we have done, is messaged other counties. Do they have equipment compatible with Department of Transportation's needs, and can we move that equipment, if it exists, within a reasonable timeline to assist DOT with clearing roads, assuming that we can get DOT freed up from the life safety missions. The other thing is that depending on how long this event goes, it would give us the authorization to request assistance from other states if they have the equipment available. So we're in the needs assessment phase right now. The final thing it does is it if somebody else provides equipment to support DOT, then opens up the governor's emergency fund to which we can reimburse those who've provided that assistance. That answer your question, Martha? Okay.
At this point in time, do you at all foresee us asking for any assistance from the federal government?
The question was, at this point in time, do we expect to ask for assistance from the federal government? We've had those conversations right now today that we don't expect that. Probably the coolest part is we'll be, if we need to, we'll be talking to our neighbors, other states, asking for help. But at this stage of the game, we don't expect to be asking the federal government for resources. Any other questions?
This is Deb Pilker from Polk County Emergency Management. I do have a question, please.
Please.
Yes, I'm just trying to clarify. So if a county needs to look to outside resources within our area to help with these measures, opening roads and such, will that free up funds? I don't know if it'll be from the governor's fund or elsewhere, but will that free up funds to allow us financial assistance to do that? And are you talking state roads or county roads when we talk about this extra assistance?
Well, the first step is please submit your ISR to the NEMA Watch Center. We'll evaluate the request. The intent here is to first free up the DOT equipment so that they can open up the 1,700 miles of state roads that are already closed, keep them open, and then provide assistance through DOT to counties to get those roads open, so so producers can access their operations.
Thank you.
And maybe the other piece I'll add to it would certainly be that the way, obviously, the state roads and the county main thoroughfares, but obviously a lot of us understand what township roads are and less frequently traveled roads, and you know how it's worked forever is Nebraska's farmers, ranchers just go out and clear the roads and dig it out, and that's how it works. But this one is so overwhelming. Countless people are reaching out and saying we can't do it anymore. We've been trying since Monday, and we're exhausted, and we're you know, our drifts are over our tractors, and we can't even dig into them. So we're gonna need some extraordinary help across the rural roads because they're beyond what anybody's experienced in our lifetimes. Andrew.
Can I ask Vicki a question?
Please.
Yeah, could you just kind of explain to people what all those, what are all the colors on the map?
Sure. So what you're seeing on the map right now is our current closure map. So you can see we've referenced that Highway 281 north-south several times. You can see it's just almost a direct line running down that highway. So you can see the total number of closures. And this is a real-time map that's available on 511. So if anybody is trying to, hopefully in the near days, not today traveling, but in the coming days, if they want to check what's been opened in real time, they can reference back to 511. They can also go to, at the same 511 landing page, they can go to Plow Tracker and get a pretty good screenshot from our trucks that have cameras on them on what those roads look like. So you can click on the truck, and just a shout out to our Plow Tracker namers. Some of our third graders have named our trucks, so you can get a kick out of that. So spend your time checking out the roads. Please don't drive them.
Has the extra, with the wet weather we had on Monday with that snow in Omaha, especially because it's wet snow, and then with the dry, cold, extreme temperatures, is that extra challenges right now, but also for cleanup later on?
Absolutely. I think we got most of the ice off the roads in the days between the two storms. The demographics of the storms were also a bit different. And so this one is mostly impacting northeast Nebraska and not the interstate area. So there is definitely some overlap. But in terms of just the road, we were pretty clear through the Wednesday piece. Where I see the biggest impact is in our personnel. Keep in mind the same people that were plowing roads Monday and Tuesday are plowing roads through the weekend. So making sure that we keep those drivers behind the plows safe, that's the number one priority.
you must be a farm boy because you recognize how challenging it is, and that's what's really creating an incredible challenge for the rural county roads, the township roads, with that heavy snow, ice freezing up and then blowing, and then can't break into it, and then get another foot on top of it. So those are some of the circumstances that has made it extraordinarily difficult for families living in rural communities, and then of course all livestock producers. Martha.
Can you talk about how staffing looks? I know that the state was experiencing a shortage of people to work on the roads previously, so how do things look now?
Yeah, Martha's question is about how staffing, there's no question, Martha, everybody's wore out. People have been working since Monday, and we've got a lot of people that are pulling it together and doing the best they can and operate safely. And Vicki, in terms of Department of Transportation folks, you've got 350 plows out, you could address that.
Thanks for the question, Martha. With the governor's help last year, we were able to secure some increases in wages for our maintenance staff. And so that has helped quite a bit with filling our team. I've personally laid eyes on our maintenance staff, anyone who's joined us in the last year, and talked with our district operations managers. We are in such a better place than we were last year in filling those roles. So I thank the governor for his support there and being able to bring in some people to be able to fill those holes. So we're in a much better place with personnel. It's just that this is sustained operations and 24-hour operations.
Okay, well, maybe I'll just finish up. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate all the press being here, helping us get the word out. We're grateful for that. Can't say enough. Thanks to all of the directors and their teams. I will tell you that I wish that every Nebraskan could see from my seat what I've experienced of the extraordinary work of our public servants across the state, just stepping up and doing what it takes, and Nebraskans helping each other. The best thing we can do right now is stay home and stay in your house, and once the wind stops blowing, then we can go out and we can start helping neighbors, and we can make sure that we get back to normal as quick as possible. So thank you all for being here. We're very grateful. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you.